wanted to make a quick video here because when I was looking for this, I couldn't find it anywhere on YouTube. And that's to answer the question, which is better? A torque converter, and it's behind here, you can't really see it, but it's here, or a jack shaft. So what we have here is we got two Trailmaster MB200s. They're quite different now because I've done a lot of modifications to this one, whereas this one's basically stock except for a few things. But I did have a chance while the engine was stock on this one to test and document the differences that I found in going with a torque converter versus the jack shaft. So now this is the first generation. Okay, so the first generation came with this jack shaft. They now come standard with a torque converter. So that's why this one has a jack shaft, in case you're wondering. If you know, many of you probably don't even know what a Trailmaster MB200 is anyways, but if you do and you're wondering why I have a jack shaft, it's because the first generations came with it. So anyways, like I said, they came with this jack shaft setup, and then they came with this 38 tooth sprocket. Right now I have a 60 tooth that I put on there literally just today. But anyways, with the jack shaft and the stock rear 38 tooth sprocket, and I also have to mention I have removed the governor. So I don't know what it is completely stock because I did that before I tested it. So just keep that in mind. With the stock setup and the governor removed, I was able to go 38 miles an hour on the road with that setup. The problem I had was I'm 175 pounds, and so I'm not like super heavy or anything, but when I would ride it off road, it will not take me up any hill. I had to get off and kind of run up, beside it to get up a hill, which was just ridiculous. So like I called Go Powersport, and what they suggested was this setup, which again is the 60 tooth sprocket. That's the same one over there, just different company, different color, and then this torque converter. So when I did that, again on a stock engine, except it has the governor removed, I lost 2 miles an hour. On the road, I was able to go 36 miles an hour instead of the stock, or again, stock with governor removed, 38 miles an hour. However, I could accelerate significantly faster, and it would take me up any hill, no problem. I even had to be careful that it wouldn't do a wheelie on me if I'm going up a steep hill. So I was thrilled, totally happy with it, with their suggestions, and I would recommend that to anybody. Now, going back to this setup, so I've had this bike, this is the second one, and it's, like I said, it's basically stock except for the governor is bypassed or removed. So I had the same problem with this one. I couldn't go up hills on it. So what I did was I bought a 60 tooth sprocket like the one on the other bike and installed it. And in case you're wondering, that's a chain tensioner, and it's pretty terrible, but that's a whole nother story. So anyways, so this went from being able to go 38 miles an hour on the road with that stock rear 38 tooth sprocket to a terrible 24 miles an hour with the 60 tooth sprocket. So that's pretty bad. Now, I will say it'll take me up any hill, no problem. But that's a pretty significant difference to me. And another thing, which it might even matter more to you, is the acceleration is so-so. With this thing, the acceleration is great. I mean, I don't know, I can't explain exactly the mechanics behind it, but because of the torque converter, it allows it to rev much higher. So you can accelerate much faster, whereas with this one, and just with your traditional, I don't even remember what this is. If this might be the stock one, I might have got a different one, but it's nothing super fancy as far as the clutch goes. You just don't have the same acceleration. And then of course you have a significant decrease in top end speed. So I would have to say, with now, of course, everyone's situation is different. So I don't know, maybe there's a situation out there where it would make more sense to have the jack shaft over the torque converter. Maybe you think, well, you know, the belts on these torque converters, they go bad and they fall off, and I don't want to deal with that. And that's true, that does happen. But it takes a long time for that to happen. I've put a lot of miles, well, I don't know how many miles, but a lot of hours on this belt, and it's still going fine, and I drive this thing like crazy, and I haven't had any problems. That was my first concern. I kind of thought, well, you know what, it's a chain, less thing can go wrong, you know. I didn't like the idea of the belt, but I went ahead and did it anyways, and I'm super glad. So with all that in mind, I would say that hands down, torque converter is the way to go. It not only gives you that acceleration that you need and the torque to get you up hills, but it also gives you that top end speed. This one, you get so-so acceleration, you get the torque you need, but you get miserable top end speed. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents. Like I said on this one, just to also mention, so long story short, I messed the engine up on the stock one, so I went ahead and put this 212 motor on here just about a month ago. Probably got maybe 10 hours at most on it. And so this is, I have the governor removed on it. I have installed 26-pound valve springs, and then I just got the same setup that was on the other one with a 62 rear sprocket and a torque converter, and this thing goes 45 miles an hour on the road, no problem. It accelerates great, it goes up hills great. So, but that's a whole nother video. So hopefully I helped someone out there if you're trying to make a decision on whether to go a torque converter or jack shaft.